It doesn't matter who their quarterback and who their coach is, the Jets will still suck. Hello, everybody. Welcome to NFL picks and predictions for Week 7. So, definitely some interesting games going on, some interesting results. However, there haven't been as many surprises because I have noticed that I actually got more games correct for last week than any other week in the season. So I think that's a trend to continue, and hopefully I win you some more money. Hopefully we can all be correct with this week's predictions in week 7. Things are really starting to heat up now. So let's start with Thursday night's game with Denver Broncos and New Orleans Saints. Denver is a slight favorite. Point spread for them is -3. And honestly, I did lose money off the Broncos last week. I don't know if you saw my previous video, but I thought they had the Chargers. And in the first half, the Chargers shut them out. But then in the second half, Bo Nix started coming out. The Denver offense was showing up. Unfortunately, they could not catch up to the Chargers. I knew that there was a possibility that there could be a repeat of that wild card playoff the Chargers had in the 2022 season. Chargers were ahead by like 27 points or 28 points. It was like a 4-score game, and Jacksonville still caught up and beat them at the end with the game-winning field goal. It definitely was possible, but it did not happen. However, Denver definitely put on a surprise, and regardless of what I was thinking in the first half, like, man, are they just losing it? No. The Broncos have still got it, and unfortunately for the Saints, I don't think the Saints got it, to say the least. I mean, I know Derek Carr is not able to play, but even before he got hurt, the Saints were still struggling after having an incredible first 2-week start. I really think that the Saints are going to still struggle. I know they have home field advantage. That's probably why the point spread isn't farther separated in between the two teams. You know what that means. If the point spread's -3, that's a good bet for Denver. Or also, if you want to be guaranteed to win the bet, I'd go moneyline Denver. But I think it's an easy prediction to say the Broncos will win this game. I am easily going with Denver on this one. Point spread or money line. I'm personally going point spread because it's even odds for the -3, but I understand if they do win by exactly a field goal, we just kind of have a push. So money line, definitely better chance of winning. So either one of those I think is a good bet for this game. So now we move on to Sunday's games. So we have the early game Sunday, the international game, which is the New England Patriots and Jacksonville Jaguars. I have said in previous videos that the Patriots will probably do better than they did last season because having a 4-13 record is setting the bar pretty low. But after seeing the past few weeks, I don't really know what they can do. The Broncos were able to turn around halfway during the season, and I know Detroit was able to do that in the 2022 season about halfway and barely missed the playoffs. I just don't see that happening with New England. And I really think they may not even improve from their record from last season. They could actually do worse. It's like when you set the bar real low, the idea is to improve that record, set the bar higher this season. But instead, I feel like New England is trying to play limbo. Like, how low can you go? And if that's the case, props to you, Patriots. You are doing a good job. And as a reward, you'll probably get first draft picks for the following season. That could be their strategy at this point because Belichick's gone. I know that they've got a lot to work out. It's not all their fault. I understand they're in a situation, but that does not change the fact that they're going to have another crappy season. It's not like I'm expecting much out of Jacksonville, especially after their devastating loss to Chicago last week and just watching them not performing as well this season. I really feel like this game is somewhat a race to the bottom, but I do feel like Jacksonville still has more potential than New England. But at this point, these two teams are just seeing who can arrange deck chairs better on the Titanic. It's not really going to do much good. It's just going to be like, hey, like, I had a better setup before the ship sank than you did. I'm going to have to go with Jacksonville on this game. Both teams are not expected to perform well, but that after seeing what Jacksonville did to Indianapolis, who I feel has a decent chance of making the playoffs, maybe 40% at this point, they still put up a good fight. They did have a very well-deserved win against the Colts. I think that although Jacksonville is not going to have a good season, that they can still easily hold off the Patriots like almost every other team this season has. So then we have the Tennessee Titans and Buffalo Bills. Now this game, I don't really know if it's necessarily going to be a blowout win for Buffalo like a lot of people are thinking. Buffalo is a very clear favorite here. Point spread for Buffalo is -9.5. It's not a horrible bet, I'd say, if you wanted to go point spread on Tennessee, because although Tennessee's not being a great team, I have seen them playing slightly better the past few weeks. Sure, they had a blowout win against Miami, but that's because Miami's a mess right now. But they still put up a good fight against Indianapolis last week. I don't know if the Colts are necessarily being overestimated by me right now, but I still, as I mentioned with the last game, they are one to watch at least for the playoffs. I don't think Tennessee really has a good playoff chance, but they still put up a decent fight against a team that has the potential to squeak into the playoffs as a wild card. I'd say it wouldn't be a bad idea to go point spread for Tennessee because honestly, although I do think Buffalo is going to win the game, you look at the last few games Buffalo has had. With the exception of the one they had with Baltimore, win or lose, they have been one-score games, and they have both been separated by a field goal. Now, granted, who did they play previously? Houston and the New York Jets. I would argue both those teams overall are better than Tennessee. I think Buffalo can still easily win, but I think it will be more competitive than a lot of people think. But I'm still going on Buffalo for the W. However, if you want to go point spread on Tennessee, that's not a horrible bet right there. But do a medium amount of chips on this game at most. Don't go too high. So then we've got Houston Texans and Green Bay Packers. Now, this game will definitely be a fun one to watch. It's expected to be competitive. Green Bay is a slight favorite. Point spread for them is -2.5. Honestly, after seeing how Green Bay has handled teams the last couple of weeks, Jordan Love is getting his groove back, and he's definitely been showing other teams who's boss. And they've definitely put a lot of points on the scoreboard. Now, granted, who did they play previously? The Los Angeles Rams and Arizona. Those, most people would argue, aren't some of the better teams, and I think overall, based on what I've seen, Houston is a better team than them, but I've said it in previous videos, and I will say it again. Houston is being overestimated this season. Although they might give Green Bay more competition, I think Green Bay still got this game. I would go point spread for Green Bay on this game, or you could go money line. I'm going with Green Bay on this game, and I honestly think that their division, the NFC North, is probably the best division in the NFL as far as this season, which I will get more into that later on in the video. So then we've got Philadelphia Eagles and New York Giants. Now, this game will be a fun division rivalry. Philadelphia is a slight favorite. Point spread for them is -3. Although Philadelphia is keeping the NFC East competitive, I still think that the Commanders have the advantage. I do think Philadelphia will be better than both Dallas and the Giants. I still think that Philadelphia is going to continue to struggle this season because compared to the previous two seasons, they have not been playing as well. And I know they won last week, but who was that against? Cleveland. And they only won by 4 points. I think Philadelphia could easily struggle against the Giants. I know Giants have home field advantage, but they did not play as well as I expected them to do against Cincinnati. Not that Cincinnati played well, but they were still able to hold off the Giants. So I think this will be similar to the last Sunday night game. I think Philadelphia can hold off New York, but I do think that it will be more competitive than a lot of people think. I don't think Philadelphia will blow up the scoreboard, but since the point spread is -3, I think they can easily cover the spread, so I'm definitely going with Philadelphia on this game. I think one way or another they will get the W, and I would go point spread or money line on Philadelphia for this game. So then we've got Detroit Lions and Minnesota Vikings. Honestly, this will be one of my favorite games to watch for Week 7. These are the two teams which I feel are competing for that top spot in the NFC North. And as I previously mentioned, I feel like NFC North is currently the best division in the NFL. And there are definitely pathways for all of the teams to advance to the playoffs since they allow 3 wildcard spots. It is a long shot, but it is possible. But I think that even if all 3 teams don't make it, there's a very good chance 2 of them could advance to the playoffs. But I feel like both these teams will have a spot. The question is, who will come out on top in the division and have home field advantage in the playoffs? So currently, it is expected to be close. Minnesota is a very slight favorite. Point spread for them is -1.5. I'm going to love watching this game probably more than most of the games this week. I cannot stress that enough. Now, based on what I've seen, Detroit started off a little wobbly. They were having a lot of one-score games, but I think they're kind of one of those teams that's starting to get better as the season goes on, and you would rather want to be in that situation than be like the Saints, starting out strong and then dropping. Minnesota is one of 2 teams that has been undefeated so far this season. They do have home field advantage, and I've noticed at least so far this season that has seemed to help them. This game is expected to be a toss-up. It is expected to be close, but I'm going with Minnesota on this one. I think that they will be able to hold off Detroit. It could easily be a game where both teams blow up the scoreboard, so the over for this game is 50.5. That's not a horrible bet, but I'm definitely going point spread or money line for Minnesota in this game. I think that they will be able to keep their perfect streak alive. So then we've got Seattle Seahawks and Atlanta Falcons. So what is this game? It's 2 birdie teams, right? 2 teams that have birds as their mascots, obviously. So for this game, Atlanta is a slight favorite. Point spread for them is -3. Based on how I've seen these teams perform previously, I do think that the game definitely could be more competitive, but Seattle's one of those teams, while they're not doing horrible, they're kind of in a similar situation that Buffalo has been. They start out strong, and then they're starting to slip. They will continue to struggle a little bit, but they could also very well get their act back together. But at the same time, Atlanta, they have continued to show results. They have continued to show that they are competitive, and they definitely have a very good chance of winning the NFC South. So this game could go either way. Geno Smith could pull off some surprises, but I really think Kirk Cousins is going to keep up his magic with Atlanta, and I know I underestimated them earlier in the season. I felt a lot of people were overestimating them. Right now, I kind of feel like it's neutral. I'm not necessarily having high expectations for Atlanta, but I don't really have the low expectations I had for them early on in the season. When it comes to who will pull off the W, I have to go with Atlanta. I think they will keep up their winning streak, and I think both point spread and money line are good bets on Atlanta for this game. So then we've got Cincinnati Bengals and Cleveland Browns. This game will be an interesting division rivalry. Now, Cincinnati is a decent favorite. Point spread for them is -5.5. But I've seen Cincinnati struggle a lot this season, and for some reason, they do tend to struggle against Cleveland. Even though Cleveland's playing bad, I've just noticed consistently the last few seasons, Cincinnati overall has had a better season than Cleveland. However, they always seem to lose to Cleveland at least once in the season. And seeing that Cleveland has home field advantage, I almost feel like despite how bad they have been, that they could pull off an upset and surprise a lot of people. And I wouldn't necessarily be surprised because, sure, if Cincinnati wins, whatever, it was expected. They're a better team than Cleveland this season, although I think both are not doing too well, and both of them could kiss their playoff chances goodbye. I really think that Cincinnati will struggle, and that I know that they struggled, but they still beat the Giants, but I just got a weird feeling it's just not going to be their day, just like it has been previous games with Cleveland. So I'm kind of going on a limb here, and I'm going to go with Cleveland on this game, actually. I think if we go money line or even point spread on Cleveland, that would be a good bet. I'm definitely going to at least put a small number of chips on money line for Cleveland, just because they've got those underdog odds, but point spread's not a bad idea either, because you know what? Cincinnati could win by a field goal. You still win the bet, right? So then we've got Miami Dolphins and Indianapolis Colts. This game, I'm a little surprised how close the odds are. Indianapolis is a slight favorite. Point spread for them is -3. And Miami, if Tua was playing, I would understand why the odds are like this, but he's not. And if Joe Flacco is playing for Indianapolis, I feel even better about them. So I'm actually glad the odds are this close, because that means a higher payout for me, right? I think that as long as Joe Flacco's coming out, if he plays just as good or better than he has been, he can easily take this game. I'm going with Indianapolis on this one. I think they'll get the W and improve their record for the season. So then we've got Carolina Panthers and Washington Commanders. This game, can't really say it'll be a fun one to watch. Carolina had that great win against the Raiders, and then after that, even with Andy Dalton, even though they probably played a little bit better, they're more competitive against teams like Cincinnati, and they did kind of put up a fight against Atlanta in the first half last week, but then they just kind of struggled, and then Atlanta just really trampled them in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, I think that Carolina will continue to struggle. Currently for this game, Washington is the favorite to win. Point spread for them is -8. And that's definitely an interesting number to have for point spread, because it kind of means that Commanders have to win by at least 3 field goals, or maybe a field goal and a touchdown, but it would definitely have to be at least a 2-score game. I could definitely see that happening, because I know I was wrong about the Commanders losing last week. Baltimore is one of those teams that started slow, but then they're definitely moving up, and Baltimore is getting better as the season is going on, and they have shown that they are one of the more competitive teams, that they are definitely playoff worthy, and I can definitely see them going to the playoffs at this point. You think about how good Baltimore has been playing, they still kept that game very competitive, and in the end, it was still a 1-score game, and they showed that they are still going to be a worthy team this season. I still feel like the Commanders will take the NFC East. So as far as it goes for this game, Commanders have home field advantage. Panthers are going to continue to struggle, and so I'm easily going with Washington on this game. Now, as far as it goes with the bets, that -8 may not be a horrible bet. So I would go point spread on Washington for this game, but maybe only do a modest amount of chips at the most. I wouldn't even put a whole lot, but I think they have a very good chance at covering the spread. If you want to go more chips, go money line, because of course, with those favorite odds, you've got to bet more to win more. So then we've got Las Vegas Raiders and Los Angeles Rams. This game is going to be probably another race for the bottom, because both these teams obviously do not really have a chance of going to the playoffs at this point. They're basically to show, hey, like, I'm not good, but I'm better than that team, right? This game will be at SoFi Stadium. The Rams do have home field advantage. There's also talk that Cooper Kupp will be returning soon to the Rams. I don't know if they'll really help him too much at this point in the season, but I think with or without their star wide receivers, the Rams might have a competitive game. I mean, the Rams are a pretty good favorite. Point spread for them is -7. I'm not so sure if that is or is not a good bet for the Rams, because I know Las Vegas has been struggling a lot this season too, but at the same time, since both teams have been struggling, I don't even know if it would be a great bet to go point spread on the Rams. Maybe a small bet, because, hey, they could win by a touchdown. I could easily see that happening. But I also think part of the reason that the Rams are a decent favorite is the fact that the Las Vegas Raiders just traded Davante Adams to the New York Jets, which I will talk about a little bit more in the video. But as far as it goes with this game, I think the Raiders, unfortunately, will continue to struggle, and that will help the Rams get their second win of the season. Not that it's worth a lot. I think they will continue to struggle, and that will make Los Angeles say, well, hey, at least we're getting some win for the season, right? I'm gonna have to go with Los Angeles on this game. As I mentioned, if you want to go point spread, do it, but don't put a lot of chips towards there. Put more chips towards money line. But even then, I'd still only put like a modest amount of chips on the Rams for money line. So then we've got Kansas City Chiefs and San Francisco 49ers. I know a lot of people are looking forward to this game. It is a Super Bowl rematch. San Francisco actually is a slight favorite, a very slight favorite. Point spread for them is -1.5. It doesn't look like Christian McCaffrey will be playing in the game at this point. You know how I am if you've seen recent videos. I'm not going to bet against Kansas City. I do not bet against Mahomes. This would be the only game this season, probably, with Kansas City that I would tell you not to put a high number of chips towards. Maybe a medium amount. Only because of the fact that historically, a lot of teams, when they have a Super Bowl rematch the following season, whatever team lost the Super Bowl tends to win those games. For example, look at last season. Kansas City had a Super Bowl rematch with Philadelphia. Kansas City had a very strong lead in the first half, but then in the second half, they seemed to struggle. I don't think they scored at all. Philadelphia sneaked up on them and happened to win. I think the final score was like 21-17. Of course, that loss had a lot to do with that dropped pass at the end by Marquez Valdez-Scantling. But just because of that fact, that the losing team of the Super Bowl tends to win the rematch game with the winning Super Bowl team the following season, that is the only reason I'd say San Francisco might have a fighting chance in this game. But that has nothing to do with San Francisco's team strength, because when you factor that in, I see San Francisco struggling, and even if these two did not play each other in the Super Bowl last year, I still would not be going for San Francisco. I know that they could take this game, but hey, I'm still going to bet on Kansas City. They do have those very slight underdog odds. Money line for them is slightly above even, so you could double your money and then some off this game. Although I would say not to throw a lot, I'm still going with Kansas City on this game. I think they will keep their perfect streak going, and I'm easily going money line KC. And now we've got the Sunday night game, New York Jets and Pittsburgh Steelers. Currently, it looks like the New York Jets are the favorite to win. Point spread for them is -2, and this will definitely be another fun Sunday night game. I did mention earlier that the Raiders traded Davante Adams to the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams are going to be reunited like they were with Green Bay, and they definitely worked well together. And I almost feel like what caused Green Bay to fall apart, it wasn't the only reason, but it definitely played a good part of Green Bay struggling in the 2022 season when they traded Davante Adams. It wasn't as easy for Aaron Rodgers at that point. Then he went to the Jets, and I know he got hurt the previous season. This season, it doesn't look super horrible, and I know a lot of Jets fans are still hopeful for him, but even with Aaron Rodgers, even with them getting a new coach, even with Davante Adams, sure, they might play better, but I still don't see the Jets as being a good team. I know they are a slight favorite, probably mostly has to do with the trade, with them getting Davante Adams. I wouldn't get my hopes up too much if you are a Jets fan. Pittsburgh had a crazy win against Las Vegas last Sunday, and they also have home field advantage this game. I know that hadn't necessarily worked out for them as it did the last Sunday night game they played with Dallas, but I still think the Jets are going to struggle. I'm going with Pittsburgh on this game. They have those slight underdog odds, so there's a good chance you could double your money and then some for this game, but it could still be very close. It's expected to be competitive, so I'd only do maybe like a modest amount of chips towards this game at the most. So then we move to the Monday night games, and there are two Monday night football games for week 7. So the first one is Baltimore Ravens and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I feel like Baltimore will continue to show the competitiveness that they have brought to the field the previous weeks. Tampa has definitely played pretty good lately, but they did kinda mess up towards the end of that game with Atlanta, even though they were ahead the majority of the game. And I know they do have home field advantage, but that hasn't necessarily helped them too much this season. Take, for example, the Week 3 game with Denver. I didn't expect that, but it happened. And I think as long as Lamar Jackson is in good health, Baltimore will bring their A game to Raymond James Stadium. And although Tampa may not struggle, I just don't think that they can hold off Baltimore. So Baltimore is the favorite to win the game. Point spread for them is -3.5. I think Baltimore will continue their winning streak, so I am going with Baltimore on this game. Just because the point spread's that dreaded 3.5, I would just bet money line on this game for Baltimore. And then the final game of the week, Los Angeles Chargers and Arizona Cardinals. This game will probably be more fun to watch for the Monday night games because I do think this game will be more of a toss-up. Obviously, the betting odds are closer. Los Angeles Chargers are the favorite. Slightly, point spread for them is -2.5. So all of these bets are not horrible. Whether you go point spread on Los Angeles or you go money line for either team, those are not horrible bets. The Chargers did show last week against Denver that they can be competitive, that they can win, that they can possibly get enough W's to sneak into the playoffs as a wild card, like they did in the 2022 season. So as long as Justin Herbert's in good health and their offense shows up, they do have a decent chance of winning. But then think about Arizona though. If Kyler Murray is doing great, they could still play great. So this game could easily go either way. Just seeing in previous games that Arizona has that potential to sneak up in the fourth quarter, they could easily do that to Los Angeles because of the fact that Los Angeles seems to be more of a first half than a second half team. And I think that if you're the type of person that likes to bet on who will score more points in what half, it would not be a horrible bet to go for Arizona in the second half because I think no matter what happens, no matter who ends up winning the game, I still think that Los Angeles will struggle in the second half like they have the previous few weeks. This game is not going to be an easy decision, but I do have to choose a team. And I think just because of the fact that the Chargers unfortunately will allow a lot of points in the second half, I think that Arizona can sneak up on them. I'm going with Arizona on this game. I'm going to bet money line on them, but just because of the competitiveness, I would say put a modest amount of chips on them at the most. Do not go too crazy on this game. So those are my picks for week 7 of the NFL. What do you think? How do you feel about those picks? Comment below, let me know what you think, and I will see you for the next video of NFL picks and predictions. I hope you had a great time watching this video. Make sure to drop a like on it and check out some of the other videos we've got on this channel. And I hope to see you in the near future.